Go on, son. I believe in you.
Give it ya! Give it ya!
Kick it in the back of the net. Margaret, give me a cup of tea.
Like we're at like a kids' football game where like the old people get like way too into it, like as if it's their favourite football club.
Johnny, break
Kick
his
that
legs.
ball!
Break his fucking knees, son.
Cool! I broke my hip.
This is going to be us in 50 years, you know. We make fun
That's
of
a
them
long
now.
time, mate. That's a long time. I don't
creeps up
think
in
you
there.
understand that. And now Josh is going to introduce the episode.
I am.
I knew you were going to fucking clear your throat.
Well, you have to. Especially today. Like my throat's not in it today.
It's not in it to win it.
Exactly. I would say my throat's head is not in the game, but it doesn't have a head. The
It's
throat is
not
below the head.
like High School Musical.
Yeah.
I feel like we should review the High School Musical trilogy.
Oh, mate.
No, that was a joke.
High
Please
School
don't.
Musical 2 soundtrack. Like, mate, that's a staff
Not
pick
happening.
down the line. High School Musical 2 for staff picks. We need
No.
it to happen.
It's not gonna.
Mate, it will happen, and I will bet on it. Bet on it.
God,
Bet on
fuck
it.
off.
Bet on me. I wanna make it like that is the way.
Just
Today
introduce
my
the
life is
episode.
where Today is the day. Doesn't mean what I say. Bet on it, bet on
Good
it,
lyricism,
bet
by the
on it, bet on me. You are listening to the Talking Music Podcast with Josh Ferguson and Connor Bryant, the show where you guessed it, talk about music. I'm Josh Ferguson, and you are Connor Bryant. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good. It's just that little whisper just got me a little bit.
You got to shake it up a little bit, you know?
Yeah, shake it up a little bit. Wait, isn't that's B movie?
We're very down with the kids by referencing a meme that died 2 years ago.
Yeah. I know. It's still it's in a whole new context since watching Seinfeld though.
Oh yeah, you just hear,
Like I feel
you just
like
see Jerry Seinfeld on that little bee body.
I do genuinely think that like half that meme is missing if you just haven't watched Seinfeld.
I don't know. It's still a pretty big meme.
Yeah, like it's funny, but like you get the context of Seinfeld and it just becomes even funnier.
I don't know if Barry B. Benson was like screaming and shouting, it's like, "What's up with airplane food?" Then sure, you need the context of Seinfeld.
I want
My
this.
cargo pants. You know,
I just
all
want like
this
an
shit.
animated episode of Seinfeld, but just they're all bees. Man, these tangents get fucking strange. It's always at the beginning of the episode.
Well, it was very fitting that we go off on tangents because a band that quite likes to go off in different directions is Ween.
Oh,
Brought it back. I fucking brought it back. So yeah, today we're going to be talking about Ween. Specifically, their album, Quebec. And the reason we're talking about this album solely is because we're introducing a new segment called Staff Picks.
Staff picks. I was gonna say it at the same time as you, but like you went slower.
Don't pin this on me. This is
Wait,
not my
do
fault.
it again. Do it again. Go on.
Staff Picks. You didn't even
Well done.
join in that time.
No, I didn't know what I was doing. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Yeah,
I'll edit. I'll edit.
Cool. Wonderful. So yeah, explain what staff picks is.
So Staff Picks is where we recommend you albums that we particularly like. Because the main show, Rate or Hate, we recommend each other albums. Right?
Mhm.
Connor, you recommend me albums. I recommend you albums all the time.
Yep.
But we thought, that we should recommend you, the audience, some albums. Albums that we both love, but you may not have checked out. Henceforth, Staff Picks. And we try to pick out albums that don't really get the love and attention we think they deserve. It may not be the highlight in their discography, or it may not be a shining moment in musical history, but we love these albums no matter what, and we think they are worthy of attention.
Like, I think it's worth noting, like, we're not just trying to be like hipsters and go like, oh, this is the underrated one, so therefore we should talk about this.
No.
We still think like these are like great albums, like, and especially with today's example, like, I think for both of us, this is our favorite Ween album, right?
This is definitely my favorite Ween album.
It's my favorite Ween album, and
There you
so it fits perfectly with that. But yeah, it's not that we're trying to purposely choose albums that are like not the expected choice. But I think it's just like giving some attention or love to an album that isn't necessarily the obvious choice.
Yeah, we're never gonna hop on here and say David Bowie's best album is the Labyrinth soundtrack or anything like that. You know, just for the sake of saying it's different to Ziggy Stardust or Lansing or Low or whatever. You know, like, we do actually want to talk about amazing albums, but can oftentimes be overshadowed by other albums by that same band or other albums in that genre or other albums that came out in the same year. And Quebec, in this instance, tends to get overshadowed by the Mollusk, which is also an amazing album.
I'd also say And Chocolate and Cheese.
And Chocolate Cheese as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, specifically the Mollusk is, like, when you think of Ween, you think of Ocean Man.
Yeah.
And you think of that album. And it's a bit of a shame because, like, I remember when I was getting into Ween, all I knew him from was Ocean Man, you know, from the SpongeBob SquarePants
Fucking
soundtrack.
great track though, isn't it?
It's a great track, yeah, but like when I didn't have the context of what Ween were, and that was the only song I knew of them, I just thought they were like one mean wonder, right?
Yeah.
So I didn't check them out for the longest time. I wrote them off as just like this meme band. But as soon as you actually dive into their music, it's actually really fucking fascinating. It's really fun and energetic and just unlike anything else.
I think this is what makes Ween so unique and such a special band to listen to, and I do mean that in both ways. Is because is that like Ween are so fucking weird. They've got such a strange sense of humor. Like the songs on like album to album, like they almost like don't fit with one another like a traditional album would. But and despite the fact that they just like are kind of like against what the establishment of an album should be, it still feels like it's still really, really great music. So despite their sense of humor and the way that they love to write things, or it seems like they're very nonchalant, it's still just fucking great shit. Like really well written.
And like it, even though they do play around with a lot of different genres on one album. You know, like Chocolate and Cheese, they're playing around with like Mexican folk and like garage rock, punk music,
bits of jazz,
and like weird electronic jams, like the AIDS song, for instance. Like,
that's
like a weird little, you know, jingle almost.
You tell anyone like, oh, listen to this album that has a track called the HIV song, or you listen to this album that has a song on it called Waving My Dick in the Wind, like people are gonna be like, oh, no.
Ween are amazing at just, you know, throwing shit to the fan and seeing what sticks, but making it work, you know. And
like every part of it sticks as well. That's the madness of it.
Yeah, so I mean the Mollusk is amazing for all those reasons. It's consistent in its just haphazard nature. But the reason we're talking about Quebec, and I think the reason why it's our favorite Ween album, is it actually has a bit of emotional heart. This is definitely the serious Ween album.
That's why it works best for me as well.
Because songs like If You Could Save Yourself, You'd Save Us All, The Argus, Among His Tribe, like these are very slow, kind of doomy ballads. And, you know, they do resonate emotionally.
Tried and true as well.
Yeah. You know, the jokes are very light on the album, but they are they're still funny at times. You know, like so many people in the neighborhood.
This is what I don't understand, especially about this album, is how like this album is like still fucking hilarious. Like it's still just as funny as all the other Ween albums. But like this is the album that like despite its hilarity like will also most likely make you cry. Like
Yeah, and I think that's
it's so
perfectly summed
stupid.
up.
Yeah.
That's perfectly summed up on If You Could Save Yourself, You'd Save Us All, which is the
Oh my
last
god,
track.
100%. Yeah.
Like that is a cry-worthy track.
Mhm.
But just in the middle of the song, there's a
Mhm.
line that says, "The check's all bounced. I came in your mouth."
Mate, it's like we're on the same fucking wavelength. Like I've cried to that line. Like it's so stupid, but like it's
Well,
it
just gets me, man.
it does though. Like that's
He
the thing.
came
Like
in
I
her
think
mouth.
me and you talking about like say that line or that song will not like you won't get it until you've listened to the album or that song because you say those lyrics and you're like that's fucking vile
Yeah,
or
that's stupid.
It's stupid, but this is sometimes Ween is just like unexplainable. Like you just can't like and yeah, that song is just so
Idiosyncratic
great.
is the perfect
Mhm.
word to sum them up.
Mhm.
Absolutely. You know, I hate using that word because it sounds so pretentious.
Yeah.
But they are the definition of idiosyncratic. They are just
Mhm.
completely their own thing. They are Ween, and no
Yeah.
one else.
You know, you get it's in music, especially in like underground scenes or like when you have like big genres, you always have copycats. You know, there are always going to be bands that sort of set the tone, and then bands that sort of copy them, and either don't do it as well or do it better. And I don't think I've ever seen a band try and even slightly replicate what Ween does.
Oh no.
I'd
Because, how
like
could
not
you?
not even like they've tried and failed. Do you know of any other bands that have done what Ween have done?
Not really, no. But like,
No.
like I said, how could you replicate Ween?
Mhm.
You know, they are impossible to replicate. You know,
Mhm.
because yeah, I think if you look at Ween at a surface level, you just see like a band dicking about with a lot of different genres on a single project, and you think, oh, I'm just going to do that. I'm going to make a rap song, a punk song, and a Spanish Latin pop song, all on the same album. It's going to be exactly like Ween, but that's not how it works. That's not what made Ween so good. What made Ween so good was the charisma, the personality, and just
the songwriting.
the songwriting. Yeah, the sheer musicianship. Like, these are actually good songs, despite the disparity in sound across the whole project. They're good songs.
Yeah, I mean, like 100%. Like, and to sort of like give an example of say this really well written stuff mixed in with the comedy aspect of Ween, because like despite like so this album, like to give a little bit of context, it was lead singer was going through a divorce, right? Or on the
Yeah, I
brink
think
of
he
a divorce.
just came off the back of a divorce when he was making this album.
So I
Yeah.
think that's where a lot of the emotion comes from. Is a lot of the songs are sort of written about that experience or that sort of sadness or like melancholy about that failing relationship. And so like to me, like just like reading up on like the lyrics and say something like Chocolate Town. You say a phrase like Chocolate Town, you know exactly what Chocolate Town's about. You know, it's shitting. Like but when you
take the
read the
Greyhound
lyrics
bus to Chocolate Town.
exactly like you read those lyrics, but like to me it kind of actually gives off this sense of like when you get that feeling of like shitting yourself because you're so nervous about something or a certain situation, or like talking to someone for the first time or talking to someone for the last time, and it's just like that feeling of like your stomach just feels like it's gonna go. And that's what this fucking song like kind of does, but it's through the metaphor of basically shitting yourself.
I love this academic analysis of.
But that's what this deserves, man.
Yeah.
Like that's and then tried and true. Like that thing
Tried
is
and True is great.
full of double entendres or what's the other word for that? Euphemisms. And throughout the entire thing, and it's so funny, but it's like really fucking heart wrenching. Like
you can
really,
smell
really
my whole
life. That it's genius. Like it's fucking genius, and I think that's why this album to me is the most special. Like it's still all over the place like any Ween album, but
Yeah.
it's centered in its core emotion. That's what it's connected by.
I also think like the sonic experimentation on here is like I wouldn't say it's their most adventurous. I still think sonically the Mollusk is their most inventive record because they'll basically do acid on that album. But this album, like a song like So Many People in the Neighborhood, like the way the vocals are chopped and screwed and like the guitars
the
are like
smashing
distorted,
sound effects,
fuzzy, the smashing effects and like the panning drum cymbal hits. And also like the fucked jam, which is like literally just like weird warble vocals and a simple bass line and drum pattern.
Which
then,
is my least favourite song on the album.
It's my least favourite song on the album too, but like it's still like fun and just like groovy as well. It's still a well written song, and like the sudden stops of like 5-second silences. You know, like it does like
that's why I think it's patience testing at that point. Like it's only like 2.5 minutes or something, but it's just that like long gap, and you're like, oh, okay, it's over, and then it just comes back, and you're like, oh, for fuck's sakes, and that's when you know Ween is fucking with you. Like,
yeah, exactly.
Like they've done that on purpose, you know.
Just like so many interesting sounds on this album, like the panning synths on Zoloft, or like
that shit's trippy.
Zoloft, and like like the warble vocals on that as well, like the midway to the point, the choir vocals that come in. It's gorgeous.
It's very spacey.
Yeah, and you know, like we keep saying that like Ween jump genres. Like this comes right after It's Gonna Be a Long Night, which
sounds like a fucking Motorhead song.
Yeah,
like...
it's throttling punk jam. Like
Yeah,
basically about like beating guys up in a bar and like call the police. Shit's going down.
Be a cat fight. Yeah,
it's fucking great.
It's a great riff as well. Like
fantastic
just to
riff.
kick the album off as well. Yeah.
So yeah, it's just like the sounds on this album I think are really special. Like paired with the emotion of songs like If You Could Save Yourself and I Don't Want It as well. That's a really sad song.
Yeah. Oh, cause oh my god, if that's a song to sort of like highlight that like divorce angle, it's that song truly, because I feel like that song does kind of strip away the comedy a little bit.
Yeah, and a song like Captain as well is definitely not funny. Like
no,
Captain actually reminds me of Slint. In a way, just in terms of atmosphere. I don't know why it reminds me of Slint.
That long, like drawn out, like this is the thing, like it's fucking Aaron or wait,
Gene and
Aaron's
Dean Ween.
Yeah,
it's not their
I think
actual names.
Gene is the lead singer, right?
I want to say so. Yeah.
Yeah, Gene Ween, like underrated singer. He like. Not only can he do so many different like voices, he's like an impressionist. Like he can do like all these. He can do like the punk vocals. He can do like really softly spoken like vocals, like high tones, low tones. And look to Captain like as like a highlight for his voice, like that long drawn out like Captain. This
turn around and take me home.
Just really,
it's really eerie and just like uncomforting.
And the track before that is
Hey there, fancy pants.
It's so stupid. Oh, I love it. It's just wonderful. Like, and I wouldn't change the track listing like at all.
It's
like
so
it hops
beautiful.
perfectly from like piece to piece. Like
absolutely, yeah,
man. It's all just so bizarre.
Yeah, I think that's just what makes it special. Like we said earlier, you know, I keep repeating myself, but you know, no one can replicate Ween. It's just its own thing, and I personally think this is their standout moment in their discography. Not just because of the emotion, not just because of the context behind this record or the sonic experimentation on this record. But I also think that it's just a perfect blend of their style up until that point with their humor and their personality, but also just with it actually being an album. You know,
Peak Ween.
I don't want to discredit Ween for like not making albums, but
Mm-hmm.
you know, they're not a serious band by any means. And for them
No.
to come across with a serious album, as serious as a Ween album could be,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
you know, it just adds a whole new dimension to their
Mhm.
music. And I think that's what really makes it special.
Mm-hmm. For sure. You know, the funniest thing, like this was the first Ween album I listened to.
How
Because
was it?
I remember when you started listening to them,
Hmm.
you told me, you were just like, oh, you know that band that made Ocean Man? And I was just like, yeah, that band.
Yeah.
And
I was
it's
like, nah, they're
like,
actually good.
like I've known about Ween for ages, like been meaning to check them out. I had like friends back in like sixth form that listened to them and they swore by them, but I think they were like more into like the pure guava, like early demo-y type shit rather than the newer stuff.
Oh, mate, that's patrician. Shit.
That is, yeah, I know. But like I've been meaning to check them out for ages, but I was always kind of intimidated because of that like style shifts. And I just remember it was early this year. I just remember being in the library when you told me to like listen to Quebec or
Right.
something like that, or like you told me listen to Ween, like Quebec, Mollusk, whatever. Because I think I was doing some work or some shit, and you were just like, right, just listen to this like right now, and I did. But I listened to it like once, and I was like, yeah, it was good. And then I just forgot to listen to it again. And then when I decided to actually like go in deep with Ween, I started with the Mollusk, and I was like, this album is so good. Then I went on to Chocolate and Cheese, and I was like, what the fuck is this band? And I listened to like 12 Country Greats. I listened to fucking White Pepper, and I even listened to Pure Guava. And then I came back to Quebec.
No.
And
shit.
so because I had like that amalgamation of just like all that context of Ween,
you've seen that evolution.
It kind of made even more sense after that.
Right.
Because I think when I first listened to it, like I don't think I understood it. But
Right, yeah, like if you
think-
come into this album with like little understanding of what Ween are, then I guess it just comes across as like, well, that album's weird. You know.
Which is weird because I think it's their most cohesive, like of doing the sort of genre hopping, but also
I mean,
like,
I'd say
this is why I think it's their greatest. But like,
I'd say the Mollusk is the most cohesive. Like that, I do just like that's basically like the Ocean, the album, right? Like that is a very cohesive listen. But
yeah, true.
I do agree that Quebec does still feel cohesive, but I would argue Mollusk is more cohesive.
It's definitely, I'd say, their easiest album to get into. The Mollusk is.
Oh yeah, the Mollusk is it's easier
For sure, like,
it has Ocean Man on it. Like
Yeah, exactly. And like honestly, if you dislike Ocean Man, get the fuck out of it. Like no one can dislike Ocean Man. Like you can't. Like that song is too happy. Like we don't deserve that song. Like
it's the
honestly,
peak of music.
oh man. The thing is that like Ween get a lot of shtick, I think, from people because of like their absolute silliness of just being like this kind of really nerdy band because of how fucking daft they are. But
are the people
don't
giving
know,
them
man.
shtick jocks or some bullshit? Like this ain't
I don't
high
know.
school.
Like I've seen it in like PMC before, like people like making fun of Ween fans, but
just because like people call
it's an
Ween
easy target.
Like to a lot of people that don't know about Ween, it's just autism music basically.
It is that I hate that, but
yeah, it's a terrible term.
Yeah,
but it is kind of true.
But it's so great. It's so great and just all over the place. Like, but yeah, I mean, like if you can musically play all these styles, then yeah, why not just sort of have them in a mishmash with each other? You know, like
yeah.
It's especially if you could do it well. Like the transitioning from song to song on a Ween album couldn't have been easy when in the studio. You know,
oh definitely
and
not.
placing these things together.
I don't know. Who knows? Like maybe they were just fucking us over the whole time. It's like, oh yeah, throw that sea shanty next to this punk jam would be hilarious.
I do
and then we
genuinely
thought,
think
man,
like
genius.
I think they were fucking around half the time. Like I think they're serious songwriters, but I do think half of the time they were just genuinely having a piss about.
Yeah,
like,
definitely.
For sure. Like they just must have been. Especially when you look at a track like the Fuck Jam, and what's that track off the Mollusk, which just basically sounds like they're drooling. and just pissing about on a synthesizer.
I
and there's,
forget
like,
the name
dog
of
woofs
it. Yeah, like a dog barking in
and
the
like
background.
long burps and.
Yeah, they were literally on acid when they recorded those burps.
Oh man, is it? Yeah. Oh god, what is that track called? Why can I not remember that? But yeah, tracks like that is just that they're just kind of having a fucking big old laugh with it. But
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
somehow it just translates into goddamn brilliant.
Goddamn magic.
Yep.
But yeah, I do actually think the album cover to Quebec is a good visual representation to what this album is. Not just because of the very bright colors and the very saturated pinks on the album cover and like the really childish drawings of Gene and Dean.
Yeah, they're so funny looking.
But like, if you actually look at that drawing, it's Gene and Dean writing. They're writing a song, and that's just the feeling I get from this album. It's just two guys having fun making music, just sitting down. It's like, oh yeah, let's do this, let's do that. You know, this would be an interesting idea. Let's experiment with this. So still having fun like they've done before, but actually having that visual of just them actually sitting down, being focused, and being like, yeah, we have something to say. We're going to say it.
Yeah. And I couldn't agree more. Like, as much as like Mollusk is kind of a concept album, and this is the great thing about Ween is that when you look at their album covers, I actually think they kind of do say a lot. Like, whenever I think about the songs from the Mollusk, I do think about that album cover. Like, it's really,
that
really
weird
distinct
thing. Like, whatever the fuck it is.
Yeah, and when I think about the track list on here, when I'm listening to it, I'm visualizing that album cover, and I think that's I know I'm kind of like a massive critic when it comes to album covers because I think they're really important, but like
they're
Ween
very
hit the nail on the head.
Yeah.
Maybe except Chocolate and Cheese. Like I really dislike that album cover, but it also kind of it
so
sums up the
perfect.
band really well.
Yeah, and like especially like the early 90s where like that was kind of just like the norm, you know? Like you wouldn't bat an eyelid in a cover like that.
That kind of put me off listening to them for a while because I presumed like that kind of album cover you used to see on like glam metal bands.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Glam metal bands love showing off like underboob and like shit like that with like just all the time because all glam metal bands can talk about is women, and that I was just like, oh, I didn't know what to expect from it, so I always just presumed that like Ween was going to be this like really shit like glam metal band.
And then what did you get? HIV. Dun, 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 dun.
So I was reading up about this. Apparently, the original album cover for Chocolate and Cheese, they wanted it to be a bunch of gay sailors, and the record label wouldn't allow them because the HIV song was on there.
Oh fuck! And I guess like the AIDS crisis was happening as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, but that just further goes to show like how much they love to fuck around.
Yeah,
is the fact that they were just like, yeah, here we've got this really confusing like 16-track album or whatever that just hops from genre to genre, and we want to put gay sailors on the cover. Why? No reason. Like, it's just gay sailors.
I'd be really interested to see how that photo shoot would have turned out.
I really want to see it.
You know,
like, I want them to like reissue it with the original cover. Like, it's hard to explain Ween. Like, they're kind of like the antithesis of themselves.
Yeah, the antithesis of just like, I don't know, music in general as well. Like they embody so much, you know, like but still remain true to themselves, you know.
Yeah, exactly. Like they never drift out of that. But I think Quebec is just I think it's just like the perfect amalgamation of their entire career. Like that's the album. That's peak Ween.
And yeah, this wasn't their last album. This was their second to last album. If Quebec was their last album, like that would have been
perfect send off.
It would have been perfect, yeah, because of the original context, but also with the added context of this is their final album, you know. But you know, it wasn't meant to be. But still an amazing album.
They're still kicking it now, but they just don't make original music anymore. Like they're still
touring,
doing loads of
like,
live
yeah,
stuff. But
it's insane. Like props to them, you know.
Yeah, because they're not young anymore, but they're still kicking it. It's great.
Like thank God for the SpongeBob movie. You know, like
I know. I do feel like that kind of revamped shit. Yeah. Fucking Steven Hillenburg. Like, wasn't he? He was inspired by the Mollusk to make SpongeBob.
Yeah. So you listen to the Mollusk, and there's actually like a few lines from the very first episode, from the very first season, where he references songs from the Mollusk.
Fuck, man.
Like
I know that
SpongeBob actually calls Gary like your little mollusk at some point.
Oh my god.
And I was like, mate.
Fuck. I know there was that song that was written by Ween for SpongeBob, which was the shoelace
Oh
tying
yeah, how to
song.
tie your shoes. Yeah.
Yeah. You do the loop-de-loop and pull, and your shoes are looking cool. Yeah. God damn.
And again,
God
only
bless
Ween would make a song like that good. You
I know. It's so because it's so silly, and that's what they do best. They do silly best. But when you mix
Yeah.
that silly with emotion, like it's the strangest blend, and it works.
You could say it's Weendful. It's like
You
wonderful,
could.
but
You could say
Ween.
that.
Weendful.
I'm not gonna say that because I don't want to. But I think rounding my thoughts up, I think Quebec is it's my favorite Ween album. But I wouldn't necessarily say it's the Ween album that you should start with.
Oh no. Yeah, you need the context of like their
Yeah.
whole discography before
Mm-hmm.
you get to Quebec. Yeah.
Mollusk,
Quebec is
chocolate
still
and
a
cheese.
solid listen on its own, but yeah, if you understand where Ween were coming from,
Mm-hmm.
it's even more special. Yeah,
Mhm.
and I think that's why it's kind of underappreciated when compared to
Yeah.
the Mollusk or chocolate and cheese.
Yeah.
It's because it does. I don't think it needs that context, but it does help with that context.
Yeah.
You know, and like some people do just want silly Ween. They don't really want the serious Ween,
Mm-hmm.
which is a shame because serious
Saying that
Ween
out
is so
loud is so
amazing.
funny.
What serious Ween?
They don't want silly Ween, they want serious Ween. God damn, give me my serious Ween.
Silly Ween is for child's play. Amazing band, an amazing album, and I think they're a very fitting pick for our first staff picks episode.
Yeah, boy.
We don't know what our next album for the next episode will be, but we'll figure it out. We'll figure it out as we go.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
if you guys listening at home have any suggestions on albums you think we should talk about, let us know. We might agree with you, and we might talk about it.
Or
Give it a try.
if you know any bands that are like Ween, please correct us. But I'm standing by my point that there aren't many bands like Ween.
That's actually a good challenge because like I highly doubt there's a band like Ween.
Mhm.
They're just called Peen, and it's a complete rip-off. of
Tribute
Ween.
band, yeah. I'd be in a Ween tribute band. I'd do that.
Yeah.
Wouldn't be as good. It'd be pretty shit.
So that was our first episode of Staff Picks. And I've realised, as we've been recording the podcast over the last few weeks, we are terrible with outros. Because we should be promoting shit, as in like our social media channels and like where you can find us and all this other stuff.
Oh my
but we
god,
don't.
you're actually so right.
We just end the episode. So we're
Yep.
changing that now, right?
Okay.
If you want to follow us on Twitter, you can do so at Talking Music Pod. You want to follow us on Instagram, Talking Music Podcast. If you want to follow myself, Josh Ferguson, you can follow me at I am Josh Ferg. If you want to follow Collar on Twitter, it's among
underscore the living.
Underscore the living. Yeah.
If any of you have ever listened to Anthrax, you'll understand that reference.
That's right.
Yeah.
I just thought it was like an edgy teen thing.
I mean, it
Yeah,
was.
going for you.
It stuck. I never changed it.
But you can change your Twitter username.
Yeah, but I don't want to. It's been it for too long now, and I still rate that album as well. So.
But okay, right. I just thought like if you change it, it'll make promoting yourself a lot easier. You could just say, "Oh, follow me at Connor Bryant on Twitter and Instagram." But no,
I'm too proud. I'm too proud.
Follow us on those platforms. Listen to us on Spotify. We're on Spotify now. Hey, we're on Spotify now. Oh yeah, I forgot to tell you, we're on Spotify now.
Decent.
Follow us on Anchor. We're going to be on
Twitter.
iTunes soon. We promise. And that has been the
Yeah,
Talking
once
Music
we do that.
Podcast. And we just talked about music.
Ween, Quebec, listen to it, yeah.
Bye.